Welcome to Moon Whispers. Today, we tackle a very hard question. Does October 7th justify genocide? Here's how our debate works. 3 rounds, opening statements. First rebuttal, second rebuttal. Respectful tone, our debaters speak seriously, unkindly. Equal time. Each speaker gets the same chance to share their view without interruption. Listen and think. You're invited to weigh both sides and decide what justice truly means. Let's begin. Our first speaker will share their opening statement.
October 7th was not just an attack, it was a nightmare. Men, women, and children were killed without mercy. Families were burned alive in their homes. People were dragged out and executed. Babies, the elderly, teenagers, no one was spared. It was a day of horror that shocked not just one country, but the whole world. When something this brutal happens, a strong response is not just understandable, it's required. Every nation has the right and the duty to protect its people. If a terror group breaks into your home, kills your loved ones, and threatens to do it again, what choice do you have? Do you wait for it to happen again, or do you act forcefully to make sure it never does? People say what's happening now is too much, that too many civilians are dying. I understand that pain. I don't celebrate suffering. But we have to face a hard truth. Hamas hides among civilians. They store weapons in schools. They fire rockets from hospitals. They use innocent people as shields. They build tunnels under homes and mosques. This is not a normal enemy. They make war from behind children and then cry foul when someone fights. We warned people to evacuate. We dropped leaflets. We made phone calls. No other military does that. But when terrorists use civilians as tools, innocent lives get caught in the fire. That's not genocide. That's the ugly reality of war, forced by the enemy's tactics. October 7th was a message. We can reach you. We can destroy you. Our message back must be louder. We will never let this happen again. That's not revenge. That's defense. And any response less than full force risks more bloodshed in the future. We're not trying to wipe out a people. We're trying to destroy a terror group. If we don't, October 7th will be just the beginning.
Now, let's hear from Nura, our second debater, who argues that no act of terror, no matter how terrible, can justify killing tens of thousands more. Nura will explain why collective punishment violates human rights and why protecting civilians must remain our top priority. Nura, the floor is yours.
What happened on October 7th was tragic and horrifying. About 1,200 people were killed in a single day. They were civilians, mothers, fathers, children, caught in a brutal and shocking attack. Nothing can make that right. I mourn every innocent life lost. No one should ever have to face that kind of terror, but we must ask a hard question. Does that terrible day give anyone the right to kill thousands more in return? Does one crime excuse another, one that targets not just fighters, but entire families, entire neighborhoods, and entire people? Since October 7th, over 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, most of them women and children. Homes have been flattened. Schools and hospitals have been destroyed. Water, food, and electricity have been blocked. People are starving, injured, and afraid. Some have no safe place to go, not even children. Is that defense? Or is that something else? We keep hearing Hamas hides among civilians. But does that mean every house becomes a target? Every child becomes a threat? War has rules. Pain doesn't make those rules disappear. No group's crime, no matter how evil, gives another side the right to erase whole cities. When people call this genocide, it's not just a political word. It means wiping out not just an army, but a culture, a future, a people. That's what's happening. Look around. Look at the numbers. This isn't about justice anymore, it's about punishment. October 7th was wrong. But what's happening now is also wrong. And 2 wrongs don't make a right. If we believe in humanity, in law, in life, we must say, no act of terror can ever justify genocide. Not now. Not ever.
Thank you to both speakers for their opening statements. We now move into the first rebuttal round. Purpose: respond directly to your opponent's opening points. No new arguments. Focus on clarifying or challenging what was already said. Equal time. Each debater will have the same amount of time, no interruptions. Respectful tone. Remain calm, clear, and courteous. Zion, please begin your first rebuttal. Nura, you'll follow immediately when Zion finishes.
Nura, I appreciate your words, and I know your heart is in the right place. No one should ever take the death of innocent people lightly. Every life matters, Israeli or Palestinian. But I need to be honest, I don't accept the idea that what's happening is genocide. That word is very serious, and using it here takes the focus off what really caused this war. Let's go back to the start. On October 7th, Hamas didn't just attack a military base. They attacked homes, music festivals, children's bedrooms. They tortured people, they filmed it and cheered. It wasn't just war, it was cruelty for the sake of fear. Any country, any government would have to act. You can't let your citizens live under the shadow of that kind of evil. Now, about the response. Yes, it's been heavy, but this is not a normal fight. Hamas doesn't wear uniforms, they hide in crowded cities. They dig tunnels under homes and schools. They launch rockets from rooftops. What should we do? Ask Nasli for them to stop. Of course civilians are in danger, it's a war zone. But Hamas made it that way. Israel warned people to leave. We dropped leaflets, we sent text messages. How many armies in history have done that? We're not targeting people, we're targeting a group that started a war. The goal isn't to punish a population, it's to stop a threat. But if Hamas hides among families and the world refuses to help remove them, then what choice do we have? We don't celebrate any death, but we also can't allow October 7th to happen again. If we don't take real, forceful action, it will, and next time, it could be worse. Defense isn't pretty, but it's necessary, and that doesn't make it genocide, it makes it survival.
Zion, I understand the pain and fear you speak of. The attacks on October 7th were horrific, and my heart goes out to every innocent person who suffered. But we need to be honest about what's happening now. Since then, over 56,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza, according to the Gaza Health Ministry and UN reports, most of them women and children. UNICEF says more than 50,000 children have been killed or injured since October 2023. That's a staggering number. International organizations like the United Nations, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch have all raised serious concerns. They call the destruction of homes, hospitals, schools, and the cutting off of food and water to millions of people collective punishment, which is illegal under international law. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said clearly that the October 7th attacks cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. You say Hamas hides among civilians, but what about the families buried under rubble in places where no fighters are found? What about entire neighborhoods destroyed? Hospitals bombed? Thousands of children dying, not because of war between soldiers, but because civilians are being caught in attacks that don't discriminate? Warnings to civilians don't help when there is no safe place to go. Gaza is surrounded and blockaded. People can't leave. And now, food, medicine, and clean water are cut off, making survival nearly impossible. Humanitarian groups warn that women and children are paying the highest price in this siege. Defense means protecting people, not destroying entire communities. When tens of thousands of civilians die, especially the most vulnerable, it's not defense anymore. It's something else. Amnesty International even calls these actions war crimes and warns of genocidal intent if these attacks aim to destroy a people that we all want peace. But peace cannot come from wiping out a whole population. Justice means respecting human life, no matter where it's from. And no act of terror, no matter how terrible, gives anyone the right to commit genocide.
We've heard each side's initial rebuttal, thank you. Now for the second rebuttal round. Address unanswered questions or contrast core values. Don't introduce entirely new themes, focus on the heart of the disagreement. Make every word count. Keep your tone serious and thoughtful. Nura, you'll start this round. Zion, you'll respond when Nura concludes.
Zion, I hear you, but the facts still point one way. This is not self-defense, it's mass suffering. First, you noted Hamas's tactics. But that never gives anyone the right to kill over 56,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children. Every life lost is a human life, not a tactic. Second, you mention humanitarian corridors and 7,000 aid trucks. Yet UNICEF and WHO report that less than half of essential supplies actually reach those in deepest need. Hospitals are overwhelmed or destroyed. 8 out of 10 water facilities are damaged. People are still starving and dying of preventable illness, even with aid efforts. Third, you say each strike targets Hamas's infrastructure. But the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that at least 70% of those killed are civilians. They live in homes, not bunkers. You cannot dismantle tunnels without flattening the houses above them, and flattening whole neighborhoods erases families, memories, futures. Fourth, about Israeli losses on October 7th, 1,200 Israelis died, including civilians. That was a horror. But two wrongs don't make a right. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has reminded everyone, no one wins when civilians pay the price. Mass bombing of Gaza's cities is exactly that, as civilians. Paying the price, you call it survival, I call it collective punishment. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International both labeled the siege and bombardment as potential war crimes. Amnesty warns of genocidal intent when essential supplies are cut off. HRW points out that targeting entire systems, water, power, food is not a military necessity, but a forced method to starve a people. A defense should protect the innocent, not destroy them. If true security means wiping out whole communities, then security itself has failed. We must find a path that stops terror without turning cities into graveyards. Because if we lose our humanity in the name of defense, no one truly wins.
Noura, I hear your concern for those who suffer in Gaza. I don't take a single civilian death lightly. But we cannot ignore who created this crucible. First, you say 56,000 Palestinians have died and most are women and children. That is tragic. But look at the root cause. Hamas built its strategy on October 7th. They fired rockets at civilians for years, dug tunnels under homes, and used mosques and hospitals as shields. They chose to put their people in harm's way. When you hide your fighters among families, you accept the risk that bombs will follow. Second, you label warnings hollow because there is nowhere safe to go. Israel opened humanitarian corridors and let in aid convoys. Over 7,000 trucks of food and medicine have passed through crossings so far. Every army in history has struggled to protect civilians when the enemy burrows into cities. Warnings alone don't defeat tunnels or stop rocket fire. Third, regarding collective punishment, the goal has never been to punish civilians for who they are, but to dismantle a terror network that threatens millions. Every targeted strike aims at a Hamas command post, weapons cache, or tunnel shaft. Civilian loss happens because Hamas refuses to fight in the open. They choose civilian areas as battlefields. Fourth, justice demands we remember the Israeli side. As well, on October 7th, around 1,200 Israeli civilians and soldiers were killed. Families were torn apart. Every country has the right to defend itself when innocent people are slaughtered in their homes. A half measure would let terrorists try again. I mourn every life lost, Palestinian or Israeli, but if we stop before defeating Hamas, we guarantee more. October 7th. Defense is never clean, and it hurts the innocent. Yet it is the only way to ensure safety for both peoples in the long run. Calling this genocide obscures the real choice: allow terror to grow, or confront it even in the painful, messy reality of war.
Thank you, Zion and Noura, for a thoughtful and heartfelt debate. You've explored whether the October 7th attacks justify a force that many call genocide, weighing defense against the principles of humanity. We've seen the argument for strong action to prevent future terror, the call to uphold human dignity and avoid collective punishment. Both sides share a desire to end suffering, yet they differ on the means. Now, we turn to you, our viewers. What does justice look like? Can security and compassion coexist? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. If you found this debate enlightening, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss our next discussion on Moon Whispers. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and thank you for watching.